What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Doors Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, we had a great week in golf. The People's Open, Waste Management, Thomas Dietrich. Nice win. What'd you think of the week?
I don't know. I don't really. I'm an old head. Like, Waste Management doesn't do it for me. I get the appeal to like the everyday person, but like it doesn't do it for me as much as everybody loves. I think 16 is a terrible hole. I'll die on that hill. I think it's actually not as enjoyable as what people think. Now, granted, fan perspective, it's super fun. Like, you have people booing, it's atmosphere. There's people that are, jumping around for joy and whatnot. It's cool, but like no one's sitting on hole 12 on a featured group watch. Like, it didn't do it for me. Plus, all my guys just randomly started the tank and it sucked.
That's fair. I admittedly, I love this week. This was a great week. Again, last year it was rough because like the belligerent alcoholism was made it extra difficult. But this year, I don't know if there was less of that or if it was just less televised. I actually thought it was much more enjoyable. Things seemed much more mellow. So I very much enjoyed it. I do like 16. I think it's fun to see, professional golfers have to sweat over a 150-yard shot with people screaming it.
They're not. There's no additional nerves from any single human being on the planet at 16. And if you believe that, I will question you.
When guys miss the green from 150 yards there, do
you want to know the PGA Tour statistic of a PGA Pro missing from 100 yards? 100 yards, not even 150, 100 yards.
Sure.
Take a guess. 100 yards.
The likelihood of them missing? Mm-hmm. No more than like 20%.
Yeah, it's about 26%. So now you increase that, you're looking probably around 33, 34%. 1 out of 3 balls missing a green. There's absolutely no pressure, and plus those pinpoints are tucked. Your angle of attack coming in. I will die on this hill, and you know that if I start to go on my data, I will counter you. There's no pressure, but it is hard.
I don't feel like pulling up my data, so you can take it. But again, I think with enough people booing you in a sport where not a lot of people will generally boo you like that on a system, there is a systematic internal thing about all of a sudden having more pressure.
Okay, maybe maybe on Tuesday, but Michael Kim, Tyson Alexander, who 90% of the people watching had never heard of before, had as much pressure as he did walking up 16 as he did leaving the tee box on 16. Zero additional pressure. Zero.
We'll agree to disagree on that one. Anyways, Thomas Dietrich won by 4 or 5 shots. Honestly, it was kind of a snooze fest, in my opinion, the last 5 minutes once we knew he was guaranteed to win. I switched over to the Super Bowl prep because that was starting at that point in time. So once I knew he was locked in, once he was on like the 17th green, admittedly I switched off. But good for him. I mean, first win on the PGA Tour, first win on the or the DP World Tour, I want to say. In 10 years he's been playing in these events?
His country, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's Belgian?
Belgium.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I almost said German, but no, I knew he wasn't German. So yeah, that was nice to see. He's always what?
I said he's so good looking, dude. He's top 5 most handsome golfers.
Him and like Adam Scott, both super good looking guys for sure. What's up?
Spieth.
Yeah, Spieth is up there for sure. So we can get a list going. When there's a slower week, we'll have to come up with a list of like top 5 to 10 like hottest male golfers on the PGA.
Next week's the Mexico Open. I think we have a slow week.
Oh yeah, that'll be perfect. Yeah, next week's the Mexico Open. Nailed it. So, all right. Outside of Dietrich winning, anybody else stand out to you one way or another on that one?
Yeah, Tyson Chandler was awesome. You might be thinking of her from Chicago, like Chicago Bulls legend Tyson Chandler. That is not it. Rookie Michael Kim performed really well. Interacted with him a couple times. He's a really cool guy. Happy to see him. Was good to see. I know you'll touch on it here in a little bit, but DB coming in strong. At the end there, Daniel Berger. And then it was awesome to see Jordan Spieth come back. I talked about him 2 weeks ago when he finished 69th, and looked terrible. Not really terrible, but just not great. But he looked actually really, really solid. And I was listening to an interview that he did where he was breaking down the mechanics of the swing, and he's really trying to go back to old Jordan Spieth, which is, if you're a loyal fan here, I commented about that like 2.5 years ago. I'm like, if he doesn't start doing this, he's gonna suck. He's gonna suck. But no, it's really cool. And then screw Tom Kim. But other than that, we're golden.
You said Tyson a couple times. I think it's Will Chandler. No, isn't he the? You're saying the guy who qualified via Monday qualifier and then finished like
10th place.
He was like T6, yeah, or T10 or something like that.
Will Chandler?
I think it's Will Chandler.
No.
I'm almost positive.
If that is, I'm gonna throw up. There's a golf. Maybe I'm confusing two names.
Yeah, you might be mixing up a couple of guys. But I want to say there might be a Tyson Chandler on tour too, but I thought this was Will, because I also was like, who the heck is Chandler on like Saturday? Admittedly, I did not have any information on him. But he finished T6. He shot 68, 67, 68, and 66 in his 4 rounds.
It is Will. I was thinking of college. Ignore me.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say, I was like, I feel like
Chandler,
What's up?
This was not the Chandler that I was thinking of, but shout out Will Chandler.
Yeah. Shout out to Will Chandler. Great T6. That's gonna probably get him into some more golf tournaments for sure.
He's gonna get a sponsor in the Mexico Open.
Does he? Yeah. I mean, hey, can't hurt. You mentioned Jordan Spieth. I thought he would struggle. Turns out he said also, I think later on in that interview, that he actually like had a slight re-injury issue at the AT&T last week, which I guess is part of the reason why he struggled. So last week when I did that whole spiel prior to the Waste Management, where I was like, he's washed, I don't know what to do with Jordan Spieth anymore, I can never play him again. I guess that's not valid anymore because he was injured, but like it still doesn't mean I trust him by any means, because the weeks I will bet for Jordan Spieth, he's going to fall apart, and then the weeks I don't bet him, he's going to finish top 5. It's a mess.
Hey, he just won you money 2 weeks ago. That's like it was a pretty performance, but he won you money.
He won me money on a bet. He lost me money on FanDuel DraftKings lineups.
Yeah.
All right, let me get into this. Some notable guys to miss the cut here. Not a hugely popular list, so I had to pull some lower tier names in terms of guys. I mean, Joel Damon, Matt Fitzpatrick, Max Homa, Tom Hoagie, Eric Cole, Luke Clanton, and then like Kevin Kisner. I mean, he missed the cut, but like that doesn't mean anything. He's just popular because of name value at this point.
Kisner has not made cuts as I do.
Sure. But the point being is that a lot of big names made it outside of those, again, few I said. As far as some low priced options that we were all over last week, I was very high on Minwoo Lee. He finished T12. Daniel Berger, who finished T2. Siwoo Kim, who wasn't the lowest of option of all time, but he finished T21. But in all actuality, a lot of my like low priced options, so like the Frankie Sappins of the world, those guys ended up missing the cut, which is unfortunate. So,
how about Jack calling out Thomas Dietrich and Christian Bezuidenhout?
You don't give me your list week in and a week out, so I can't remember that off the top of the dome piece every week. If you gave me your list week in and week out, I would put those on for your best low priced options. Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I figured. So yeah, those are some low priced options we're all over. Jack did again have Dietrich, so we'll give him that one. Nicely done. But you didn't pick him as a winner's pick, so like.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding. You're good.
All right. Well, I think this is I don't know if it's a point of contention, but we as golf fans need to talk about Max Homa's not a name anymore. That's the reality of it.
But he was just in like the Ryder Cup. So it's like, I know. It's tough. His name has the value because he's been in these big events and like he's contended for majors and he was in a Ryder Cup and like, it's the same way like Daniel Berger's not as big of a name anymore, but like he was in a Ryder Cup. He was in what?
Well, the difference is Daniel Berger was injured and recovered. Max Homa just Sucks.
I mean, all right, maybe he's a bad example. Is no, like Will Zalatoris is just also injured technically. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a gray area, but like he's done too much high tier competition and been, he's won too many golf tournaments and played too well in too many fields to just kind of like totally drop off the face of the earth. So it's a bit of a
push back. What state does he play the best golf in?
I guess California.
What state is he currently in and has sucked for the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, but like I don't know.
15 weeks in a row.
I know. Trust me, he's not playing well. But is this a case of him no longer being a golfer with a recognizable name, or him in a horrible stretch right now?
I think he's done.
I'll disagree. I think he's in a very, very bad stretch. Do I think he potentially might not jump all the way back up to like contending at majors, top 2, top 3 potential? Sure, possibly. But do I think he can still finish, T20 in tournaments week in, week out, like a Taylor Pendrith style type of player? Yeah, like that doesn't seem too out of pocket for him to get to that point. And at that point there, he still like is a decently recognizable name. I don't know. I don't know. I see both sides. All right, let's do this. Let's skip on to the next step because Max Homa is in this field as well, so we can talk about him again if we want. How did your DraftKings lineup do last week? Did you make any money? I want to say you had Dietrich in that lineup. Of course I did,
yeah. When you have Dietrich and Bez who have a combined like 14,000, yeah, you win money. And I Justin Thomas too, which that eagle on 72nd really helped. I had Rasmus. I absolutely loaded my DraftKings. So the only miss was Joel Damon, and he was 6,400, and that was a fly on the wall guess. So yeah. I am chilling.
Yeah, you crushed it on DraftKings. I did not crush it on DraftKings. I had Daniel Berger, who finished T2. That was great. I had Rasmus Højgaard, who finished T14. I had Scotty, who finished T25. We didn't really talk about it, but Scotty did not play good on that back nine on Sunday at all. But then I had Lucas Glover, Charlie Hoffman, and Frankie Sappin, all who missed the cut. Jack, how'd your FanDuel lineups go? I assume a lot of the same.
No, the only difference is I didn't have Dietrich at Rio Hisasune. I did technically win on both, but not to the extent I did on DraftKings.
I was gonna say DraftKings, you might have like 4 or 5 extra money based on your lineup. So
I didn't look only because I had like 3,700 open bets in the Super Bowl. So I haven't taken a look yet, but we crushed. That's all I know.
There you go. That makes sense. For my FanDuel, again, a lot of the same guys. Scotty, T25, Rasmus, T14. I took Kitayama, who finished T49. Took Sam Stevens, who finished T44. And then Hoffman and Sappin, who both missed the cut. So, hate to see it, but a little better on FanDuel. Don't really think it mattered. DFS was not my highest success this week, but that's all right because I did pretty well otherwise. So, Jack, how'd your bets do last week?
I want to throw up.
Okay.
It's ridiculous because coming into Saturday, I was dominating. Christian, the Zayden top African, top 40 smacked. Tom Kim somehow missed top 30. I don't know what the heck happened. Yeah. Dietrich smacked, which is good. Jake Knapp was in like 4th place coming into the weekend and then shot like 6 over. I had no idea what happened. His mistakes were terrible. JT top 20 was a smack. And then those 2 playoff ones also hurt. So yeah, we're kind of back down in the dumps. We're about 6 1/4 units down now. So not great.
Yikes. Not your best performance of all time. We'll just stick with that one.
Crap.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice. Well, that's a tough segue because my bets started and they looked pretty brutal for 3.5 days. But in all honesty, I ended up going 4 for 5. I had a pretty good week betting. I had Rasmus Højgaard over Nikolai Højgaard at -140. That was a win. I had Minwoo Lee over Ryan Fox at -150. That was a win. I had Tom Kim over Benny An at -120. That was a win. I had Rasmus Højgaard top 40 at -125. That was a win. My only loss being Kurt Kitayama over Jordan Spieth. at plus 100. So even with the one loss, I am up 2.01 units on the week. I am now up 13.65 units in total. So I'm just kind of steadily crawling my way up the green, which is great. We love to see that. So let's just hope I can kind of continue to do it. So how did your wildcard bets do?
I don't even know what my wild card bets were. I'm going to be honest.
Want me to walk through them because I have it up?
Good, because there was Knapp, top 10, where I could have cashed out, and I should have cashed out, but I was like, dude, he looks awesome. Clanton, who I feel bad for that kid, played fine, just made mistakes.
Yep.
Tom Kim was another one that was in there that should have won. Want to smack him around a little bit. Maybe Sep Straka?
Yeah, you had Sep Straka, who finished T14.
Look at the doc. I mean, it's right here. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah, you had him T14, or you had him top 10, and he finished T14. I think he finished par on 17 and 18, which would do it. Yeah, that's a tough way to finish for sure. So that's rough. But my wild card pick was Minwoo Lee, top 20 at plus 220. He, similarly to Straka, finished T14. So that's a winner. I now have 7 wildcard wins to my 8 wildcard losses, which means if you follow them, you're up money, just based on the calculations that I always pick a top 200 or worse. So we're doing pretty good so far this year on our wildcards. We just got to keep it up. So on to winners. How'd your winners do last week, Jack?
Tom Kim, who was like 6th and then went to 44th. Clanton, miscut. Mavic McNeely, 6th.
There you go. For my winners, I had Rasmus Højgaard, who finished 14th, Nick Taylor, who finished 25th, and Kurt Kitayama, who finished 49th. All right, everyone shed a tear. The most enjoyable tournament of the golf year outside of a major, in my opinion, is now over. Waste Management, done. You have nothing else, right? Nothing else to add? Nothing else to add? Okay. All right, we are on to the Genesis Invitational. There's a little bit of deja vu this week. Just be advised, this event is not going to be played at Riviera because of the fires in the Pacific Palisades. I don't know, a couple weeks, month ago almost now at this point. So therefore, we are going back to Torrey Pines, which we actually just played a few weeks back. If you look closely, we played the Farmers Open there. So if you want to look at people's stats while we're going through this, you can look at the finishes in the Farmers Open, and that was played at both the Torrey Pines South Course and the North Course. This week at the Genesis, they're only going to play the South Course. So the North Course will not be in play, which might change things up just a little bit the way it's all set up. We did cover this a few weeks back at the Farmers Open, but I'll go over some highlights again. It's a par 72 totaling 7,750 yards. There's going to be about 72, give or take, golfers in the field. And this event will have a cut. It's either going to be top 50 or anybody within 10 shots of the lead. And again, that's all kind of dependent. So it's going to be like a Masters style type of cut. So keep that in mind. The main way to kind of get around on this course is you ideally want to hit a long straight drive and then hit a nice long approach shot and just take a prayer that your short game's in good enough form to stick close and hang out. Missing the fairway is a bigger penalty than hitting a long drive on almost every hole here at Torrey Pines. You'll notice this when you look at the Farmers because guys like Sam Stevens or Andrew Novak were actually in the mix back at the Farmer. And both apply to the metric a lot where they are very good with accuracy, but they might not have the best distance on the planet. So with that, we are at the Genesis at Torrey Pines. Jack, any other highlights you want to get into? Or are we going right into the DraftKings pricing?
I have one highlight.
He's not in the event. We can't talk about him. I'm sorry. That's a rule. We made that rule a while back.
There's no such rule. You give me 2 minutes to talk about him.
Yeah, you get 10 seconds. Go for it.
Just want to hurt myself.
All right. Just to highlight.
I'm going to go eat brownies after this.
So Jack is very sad because Tiger was fully
he was ready.
He was invested, right? I mean, he said he was going to play.
If Tiger Woods says he's playing, he's invested. He wants to win, and he thinks he can win. It's an elevated field that's bottom 30 is garbage.
What's also very interesting is that he never won at Riviera, but I think he's won like half a dozen to like 10 times at Torrey Pines.
You want to
So
know what a really convenient date at Torrey Pines is? It was in 2008, I believe. That was called the United States Open, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
Greatest performance.
That one's one that stood out for sure, but I feel like he's won probably half a dozen to 10 times at Torrey Pines. So it would have been
won half a dozen everywhere.
Well, you're not wrong, but he has not won half a dozen times at Riviera. But the point being is he's not going to be in the field this week. So as much as Jack will want to talk about him coming up after this, this is Tiger's 30 seconds of shine, and we will see him back again at the Masters.
Hopefully before.
Well, hopefully, but it's Tiger. We'll see. Bear in mind, by the way, the reason he's not in this event is because his mother passed away, a week ago, a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So that it makes sense.
I've spoken with her. She was awesome.
There you go. All right. With that, let's get into DraftKings pricing. We're going to group together these top 4 guys because they always end up pretty much getting grouped together. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa. What do we think of, Jack?
This is what happened to Scotty Scheffler last year. I mean, 25th is not bad by any stretch of the word, but we talked about him for a little bit. Was like, he's the best player in the world, but the one aspect of his game that really sucked was putting. And it was like he's losing strokes, but he's still competing. And for a lot of regard, he is. Last week, his course management was to the level of a 9 handicapper. And you might think a 9 handicapper knows his way around the course. And for the most part, comparatively, they may. When you're playing to the level of, I mean, Thomas Dietrich, in the grand scheme of things, it's crazy to think he's probably playing to a plus 9.5 or a plus 10 comparatively to what we're doing. That's just not going to cut it. You're going to lose strokes. And it seemed like a lot of the field was either 6 under or 1 over. Like, it was just a really weird discrepancy, and I couldn't really put my hand on why. But that course management was really, really rough for me to watch. And like, even as a golfer, and obviously Super Bowl prep and, drinks and food were flowing and you're doing 100 things, it was so evident.
Oh, yeah.
Now going to a course that is even worse for course management, you have to be just so much more on top of your game. That's scary to me. Not saying he's going to go out and not win by 7 or has that same apt, but course management is something you can't teach for the most part. And if you really struggle with it on a course that, for the most part, he should have dominated, that's very scary. So I'm taking a week off Scotty. With that being said, he wins by 6. But I think that what I saw from Rory McIlroy when he played at Pebble, that was probably some of the most start to finish quality 72 holes I've ever seen. Yep. So I think he can repeat that in the same conditions. And that's probably who I would say is number 1, especially with price.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You mentioned it a little bit, but yeah, Thomas Dietrich gained nearly 19 strokes total when it came to the strokes gained metrics last week at the Waste Management. Scotty Scheffler lost 4.5 strokes just in short game. So even if he's gaining 10 strokes on approach, which again is not going to be a week in and week out thing, regardless of how good he is with his irons, losing 4.5 strokes in the short game, which is just basically around the green and putting, you're not going to win a ton of tournaments. He's lost strokes around the green in 5 of his last 6 starts, which is just not very Scotty-like. He's still contending because he's Scotty Scheffler, and the rest of his game makes up for it. But it basically takes out some of his win equity when he does that. He also just doesn't have the best history here at Torrey. Bear in mind, he hasn't played this course since 2023. But he's got like 2 top 20s, but neither of them were top 10, and then 2 missed cuts. So it's not great. It's not awful, but it's nothing that's inspiring me to have to pick Scotty this week. So I think you save the $1,400 and you go to somebody else below him at the absolute minimum. You mentioned Rory. I really didn't think he was going to be able to use his driver as a weapon as much as he did at Pebble Beach. Turns out that could not have been more wrong. I'll accept that. Again, he cut off corners that did not logistically in my head make sense for him to cut off at Pebble Beach, and he made that course his. Now he goes to Torrey Pines, where he has 3 top 7 or better finishes and another T16 in his 4 career starts here. I talked about his driver not helping him as much at Pebble Beach. Driver's definitely going to help him here when it comes to Torrey Pines. I'm honestly a pretty big fan of his this week when it comes to winners. If you have the ability to just pick whoever you want as a winner, I think he would be a very good option to get to when it comes to that. I'll mention JT. If you've been trying to hold a winning ticket on JT any of the last like 8 weeks, you're kind of pissed off. But in all honesty, you really shouldn't be. He's been crushing it, all things considered. He's got 4 T6s or better in his past 6 starts. He's been great on approach. His putter's been kind of fluctuating, and that's been a bit of the question. When it's good, he's been finishing top 5. When it's bad, he finishes T25. But just know he has 4 top 25 or better finishes in 5 starts at Torrey Pines. I anticipate that he's going to be good here again this week. I think I prefer Rory, ideally, but I also don't hate going to JT if you want to go that route. Yeah. Colin Morikawa, potentially a better version of JT this week, just based on his ability to pretty much just hit more fairways and have an equally good approach play. I'm going to continue to be high on Colin, honestly, for a majority of the 2025 season. I think he's going to be pretty good. His approach play, again, will continue to basically do well. Similarly to JT, I think he's very likely to play well this week and can finish top 10 depending on what his putter does for him. If his putter performs, he's finishing top 10. If his putter isn't there, he's finishing T35. So take that into account. All right. Any other thoughts? Are we going 9K?
No, I think it's honestly a really accurate range. I think this is one of the only times I actually agree with the pricing relatively because, world number 1 should be number 1. But saving $1,400 and going to Rory, who I personally believe has the best shot to win. I didn't put him as a winner for the record. I did, but not on this. But it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hey, if you are like, you're going to be in some of these contests where it's like, you pay $2,500, I don't know, whatever everybody's threshold is. Scottie Scheffler's not going to be that owned this week in relativity. So he's still going to be like 20% owned, but in the grand scheme of things, that's Scottie Scheffler. That's pretty dang low. So
yeah, he will not be a super popular option, but again, you have fun taking that chance because I do think a lot of the casuals will still end up just being like, yeah, Scottie Scheffler, sure.
Yeah.
Click. So, do you have a ranking for your top 3 in this one? Is it what? Rory, Scottie, JT? Probably.
Rory, JT, Colin Morikawa, Scottie Scheffler.
That's I might go Rory, Colin, JT, Scottie.
That's fair. So, I mean, I think
swap JT and Scottie or JT and Colin.
The long irons for Colin historically have been better than JT, but I think that the driver in the short game for JT has been more on than Colin in the grand scheme of things, percentage-wise. So it's a flop for me, but I think Justin Thomas can hold a little bit more spin on these greens than I think Colin can because he's a little more penetrating. So
in a perfect world, I'm going Rory at 1, and then 2A is like Colin, 2B is JT, and then 4 is Scottie. But it just doesn't work that way. All right, with that, let's get into the 9K range. We have Ludwig Aubert at 9,800 down to Taylor Pendrith at 9,000.
Yeah, I think that there's 2 things that stand out for me. One, Hideki Matsuyama is going to be extremely owned, even though over the last couple weeks he's really been slipping, slipping for those of you not watching on video. Just much to like Scottie, it's course management. These just small mistakes that aren't capitalizing on birdie or a 4-foot par save becomes a bogey or things of that nature, going for it. And I'm not sure, nothing has come out of it in terms of an injury. They tease like, oh, he strained his neck or he got a stinger or something like that. I haven't heard anything concrete, but Hideki Matsuyama is so dangerous. And on this course, he's second in terms of the last decade, only behind Tony Finau, who missed the cut here like 3 weeks ago. So this is going to be probably the week for Hideki Matsuyama that really breaks the mold for his next 5 weeks. So I think he's a guy to target. And then I also This might be a Tommy Fleetwood week, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
He's only played one PGA Tour event. It was at Pebble Beach, and he finished top 25. He looked really good. His ball flight, I know I kind of ripped Colin Morikawa a little bit for his more penetrating ball flight. Tommy Fleetwood generates a ridiculous amount of spin, and his game has been on fire on the DP World Tour. His worst finish in the last like 9 weeks, 9 events has been like 22nd. Like, that's ridiculous. And you're giving me a 22nd guaranteed at asterisk, obviously, at 9,100. Locked in, because I don't think a lot of casual people that you're playing against in these, like, let's say you're doing a $10 bet or a $10 lineup or whatnot. Most people aren't going, ooh, Tommy Fleetwood's my guy this week. I think he's got a real good shot.
I'm gonna start off and highlight some of my notes I had on Hideki. I think he's gonna be an interesting option this week. You mentioned how well he's played at Rory before, but he's, again, you talked too about the struggling. He is lost in strokes gained off the tee and with the putter in each of these last 3 weeks. That is concerning, and because of that, he subsequently has had his 3 worst finishes since the Open Championship. I'm not saying he can't turn it around. If he's gonna turn it around, it'll be here. Admittedly, I feel like this is a prime example of somebody I'm gonna keep tabs on this week, but I'm not betting for him. I'm not betting against him. I'm not putting him in DFS. I just want to keep tabs and see what kind of Hideki Matsuyama we're gonna get, because like it's kind of scary to like put all of your eggs in one basket one way or another, especially with how up and down his injury history has been as well. I'm going to mention Sung Jae Im as well. Similarly to Hideki, he actually played really well here a couple weeks back, but his approach play has basically otherwise been extremely poor. Outside of the T4 that he had at the Farmers a few weeks back, he has not finished inside the top 30, and has lost on approach and tee to green in each of his other 3 starts. I think he's honestly a pretty good regression target this week to not finish well. And especially at this high price of 9,200, I would avoid him even more so than a Hideki. I like Fleetwood, who you kind of talked about, who he hasn't finished worse than T22 in his last 9 starts. I think Aubert, if you think he's 100% healthy, I understand getting to him. Obviously, the sickness was a bit of a challenge for that, but prior to the sickness, I think he rattled off about 3 or 4 straight top 15 finishes.
I'll add one note, and I think a lot of people I'm not trying to critique you, illness in the sense of there was like a flu or a stomach bug that was going around, and then they went and played Pebble when there was 40 miles an hour of wind and sleet coming in their way. Nobody that has ever felt slightly off in human history has been able to perform that way, unless you're Tiger Woods. But what I really want, obviously it's play, but he's had 2 weeks now to recover. He should be good, should be full steam ahead. Forecast calls for more similar terms of wind, but not necessarily rain. If he's not fully healthy, we're looking at something way worse than I want to even say, but yeah, I think he's full steam ahead.
Yeah, I get going to him. I also get just wanting to see a good week first, and just again doing the similar style of just seeing it. What's up?
Could go Patrick Cantlay, man. I think he's going to be sneaky this week.
He still scares me with him not being able to finish. The amount of times I see him on the top of the leaderboard and then finish like T20 is scary.
At 9,400, that's fine.
In a 72-person field, though?
Mm-hmm.
A T20 for 9,400 in a 72-person field. I feel like that's less crazy. That's like a top 45 in a normal field.
No, not really. Because you're still battling the best golfers in the world. The scale is tilted toward the end. Yeah. The top, like 5th place is not 11th in a normal field. Like the tip of the scale is not weighed as much as the end. So like 28th, 29th, 30th, but still.
That's fair. I don't know. I think just maybe the lack of I don't know if lack of upside is the perfect word, because like he obviously has upside, but I just don't feel like he's plays 4 good rounds to finish with a win. He will always have at least that one bad round where he will not capitalize. I actually think Taylor Pendrith is very interesting. His game is significantly less exciting than basically anybody else in this range, but I actually think his game kind of fits Torrey Pines pretty good. He almost always gains off the tee. He's got really good approach play. Biggest concern is his putter, but like honestly, I just described half the field. Shoot, I just described Scotty Scheffler at that point. Good driver, good approach play, inconsistent putter. He did actually finish T7 a few starts back here at the Farmers as well. So he played well there.
His last 4 starts here.
What's up?
3 top 16s in his last 4 starts here.
There you go. He also followed it up with a T9 at Pebble Beach. I honestly think I'm pretty high on him in this range. Outside of him and then maybe Fleetwood, no Bear, I would avoid everybody else, personally.
I think this is going to be a hot take, but I think this is going to be, the quietest range in terms of degenerate gamblers, but I think you're probably going to see 1 or 2 of these guys finish top 5.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I like 3 guys in the 8K range over a majority of this range.
Well, then lead me on, brother.
All right. Tom Kim, 8,900 down to Thomas Dietrich, last week's winner, 8,000. You want me to start because I have the names I like?
Yeah. Because we're probably on the same guys, to be honest.
All right. So I like Shane Lowry. I think he actually got screwed at the Farmers a few weeks back. You might look at it and see, well, he missed the cut. What do you mean? That Friday when the wind was awful and basically ended up hurting everybody, he got screwed because he was on the North course. So it didn't make it work out very well for him. He had a 93% chance of making the cut at any course in time in history. He actually gained strokes to the field on both Thursday and Friday, but somehow missed the cut. He gained a whole stroke on the field and then a 1.5 on strokes gained tee to green. So he should have made the cut that week. But just based on how it all laid out with the weather, he did not. Again, that's probably not happening again this week. If you look outside of that missed cut, he's got 4 top 15 finishes in his last 6 starts. He's been playing really well. His approach game is good. His putts have been pretty. His putting has been pretty good. And his off the tee has been much more consistent, and that's really kind of what you want in this range. I will mention Jason Day. I don't have much on him outside of basically his name being relevant at this course and winning here a couple times. He putted extremely well at the AT&T, and I think he's a decent option. He's back out, and again, this is like his favorite course of all time. So if you want to try and take a chance on him, you can. I don't think you have to by any means. I'll mention Jordan Spieth at 8,500. Stop me if you've heard this before. I don't know what to do with Jordan Spieth at this point. He played great at Waste Management, played awful at Pebble. He now goes to Torrey Pines, which isn't, the best when it comes to his history. I think you just kind of abstain from Jordan until further notice, and we get more data from him, in my personal opinion. I will mention Rasmus Højgaard at 8,300. Do you want to talk what you want to talk about him?
Any of the 2 guys that I'm excited about.
Sweet, that works. I'm going to give myself a pat on back again for Rasmus last week. I think unless you are a nerd or a true degenerate, you probably were not very highly looking into Rasmus Højgaard. And he finished T12. He was in second place for a majority of the day as well on Sunday before falling back to 12. But again, you would take that a majority of the times. He gained in all strokes gained categories outside of around the green, where he lost 0.3 strokes. His approach play is also great, and I'm going to likely be backing him again this week. So that is some of the guys I really like. I mean, who do you like? What, Henley because of his approach play, and then what, Tom Kim? Dude, I'm trying to. No way you like Sam Burns and Finau, right?
Nope, you're over. Robert McIntyre. Bobby Mack. Bobby Mack is nasty, and if you look at it, the only time he really played Pebble 40th, but outside of that 6, bunch of top 10s, this kid's a monster. And we're looking at the weather report of upwards of 25 to 40 miles an hour of wind consistently. You're talking about a player that has great driving, great irons, and great approach play. And approach play is encompassing of chipping. That sounds so elementary to say, but short game, all the way up to 225 yards for most part in a lot of metrics. This kid is a monster. Do not sleep on Bobby Mack this week at 8,100. And then Sepp Straka. Sepp Straka he's right now the golfer of the year. Now we're 11 weeks into the year. So like take that with a grain of salt before majors come through. But right now he's the player of the year. His one miss is at the RSM. Ever since then, his worst finish is 30th. Think about that. This kid's nasty. Now he is one of the spinniest players on tour, and I actually love his game so much. A lot of people think it's relatively boring, and boring golf is what I think wins a lot of these events. And I just think that this is one of those courses that plays major style. So Bobby Mack and Sepp Straka are two of the guys that I think are really going to pull away from the 8K range, and especially in DFS are not going to be that owned.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know Sepp Straka has been very much moving way up everybody's boards because he's played basically in the last 5 starts. So that checks out, and I understand the idea of wanting to get to Sepp, which figured out, by the way, his real name is Yosef. Did you know that? So he's just been lying to us all this whole time. He's not just Seppi, and he's not Sepp. Come on, I feel cheated.
PG to a roster, go through the DP World Tour transfers, or like a third of them use their second names or preferred names.
I'm just saying, I wanted his first name to actually be Giuseppe.
You think Tiger's first name is Tiger?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I refuse to believe it is anything else. It's just Tiger. No last name too. Just Tiger. Just like Zendaya, your favorite. She's an actor. You wouldn't know it. Never mind. I'm trying to be funny. I forgot.
Oh, do I call her Zenduga or whatever her name
is? Yes, you do. All right. We're getting out of the 8K.
Can I tell you who the number one high school golf team in the country is? You bet your bottom dollar I can.
Yeah, I know. All right, on to the 7K range we go. Will Zalatoris, 7,900. Oof. Down to Davis Thompson at 7,000.
It is time to look at Him-Woo Lee as breaking through on the PGA Tour. Now, I have very much criticized Min-Woo Lee on the PGA Tour. He has not performed. Now, take this with a grain of salt for all you TikTok golfers. Min-Woo Lee is still a prospect. He is not a solidified PGA Tour golfer. I know that is a wild statement, but for anyone that actually knows the game of golf and the professional landscape, he is a prospect.
He's what, like 25?
Not even by age, but just quantity of events. He's still playing predominantly in the DP World Tour. Like, he's played as many events in the DP World Tour in the last 12 months that he has the PGA. It's a crazy stat to think about. I think he's finally it's such a weird thing for like non-athletes, the landscape of like the different type of game you have to play. So like take Luka Doncic for basketball in the NBA. European basketball is a lot different than the NBA, and he's talked about that on a number of occasions. You might think it's still basketball. The landscape of DP World Tour, Japan Tour, Asia Tour, America's Tour to the PGA Tour is night and freaking day. And you know it might sound like tee box, pin, ball, and hole. And the reality is it's not that. So Min-Woo Lee is still a prospect. This is an event that I really think he can break out with because this guy has I want to say it's like top 3 club head speed on the entire PGA Tour average-wise, which is nasty. His long iron game is just quickly skyrocketing in terms of points. And I think his short game is getting much tighter. And at 7,800, I think this is a guy that you really got to start taking some flyers on. And if you're one of those gamblers that just likes the thrill and was like, I don't want to bet top 40, I want to bet top 10, this might be your week for Min-Woo Lee. Like, I think he can actually contend. So I think he's probably the biggest target. But I do want to point out Adam Scott and Wyndham Clark are 2 targets that no one else in the world is probably thinking of, especially Adam Scott. Don't sleep on Adam Scott. Adam Scott has been a monster this year. 22, 15, 3 in his last 3 starts. Guy's a rake. Adam Scott just swings too smooth for it to go that far. It's like Freddie Couples. He still bombs it. Monster. Wyndham Clark was raking last week and just started to taper off a little bit. Not like bad play. He just kept getting bad breaks for a PGA Tour level. He sucked the last couple weeks outside of that, but Wyndham Clark can go deep. And I think if he can get in his bag, he could probably finish this event in top 5 atmosphere. I really believe that.
No, that makes sense. I'm going to highlight too Min-Woo Lee because I liked him as well. He finished quite well last week, but if you actually look at his stats, he didn't even play to his normal strengths too. He gained almost 7 strokes around the green, which he almost never does. He gained 4.5 off the tee. And then he actually lost a combined 2.5 on approach and putting. That's the first time he lost on strokes gained, like approach, I think in 6 starts. So I highly see him going back to being, again, at least an average approach player again. He's probably not going to gain 7 strokes around the green, so that'll come back slightly. But he finished T12. If he loses a couple of strokes around the green, gains a couple of strokes on approach, there's no reason he can't finish, again, like T12 again. So I would continue to go back to him for now. But just realize that he did have that slight concern of actually losing 2.5 on approach and putting between the two of them. I've seen some highlights for Cam Young. He's lost strokes gained approach in each of his last 7 starts. He's also lost with the putter in 5 of those starts. He had a T12 at the Waste Management where he gained 7.5 strokes with the putter. That's not sustainable. Can we all agree that we're just going to avoid Cam until he does something a little bit more consistent than the pop off?
I 100% agree with you. But if you're one of those people that needs a flyer, Cam Young is not the worst flyer. In the same regard of a name-wise, how you mentioned Max Homa earlier. Like, Cam Young is a world-class ball striker that is working through things. So if he gets it to click for 4 rounds, which the last 3 he did at Waste Management, that of 7,400, that's a frickin' flyer of the decade.
Yeah, that's fair. I would just be advised to be hesitant. If you want to take the risk, understand that it is a very big risk. He can either be a part of those 12 names or whatever that missed the cut, or finish top 5, and it really could go anywhere in between. I will also mention Sam Stevens at 7,600. A year or so ago, I want to say I talked about Sam Stevens being the best player on courses more than 7,600 yards. Mm-hmm. This course is 7,750 yards. So pretty much describes Torrey in a nutshell when I say, the long course that benefits accuracy over distance. Say hello to Sam Stevens. That's your guy. So I'm pretty high on Sam this week. I think at 7,600, he's a great option. Obviously, you need more than just made cut because there's only like 12 guys missing the cut. But I think he could very well finish T20, T25 here this week, and I could see it pretty clearly. So I like Adam Scott too. You talked about it already. The guy just doesn't age and continues to hit the ball well and far, and is really good with his irons. So it's kind of disgusting how he just continues to do that. And honestly, like, he should chill because, like, I'm kind of jealous. All right, everybody else in this range? You were going down to 6.
I think you go down to 6 safely.
All right, let's go. Daniel Berger, 6,900 down to Nico Echevarria.
Yeah, you can skip this range. Like, there's going to be some people, and I'm sure Liam will have a comment, and I can tell you exactly who I think he's going to comment on. Actually, you already said his name, Andrew Novak, but this is a spot that I think is really dangerous in the sense of this is going to be a model of recent form. And recent form at Torrey Pines and this dial-out event does not take into account what recent form is. This is a really scary range for me, and I'm completely boycotting it.
That's fair. Okay. I have like 1.5 names that I like is maybe the best way to describe it. So the full name I like is Daniel Berger at 6,900. He's probably going to be one of the most popular golfers in this field just based on DFS lineups. Him being 6,900 and the price point that he is, it's very warranted. He gained across the bag in all strokes gained metrics. He gained 4.5 strokes on both approach and off the tee, which is the best he's done in 11 starts in both of those categories. I think that he is playing great right now. Do I think he's going to win the tournament? Absolutely not. Do I think he could finish T35? Absolutely. And if you're getting somebody in the 6K price point finishing T35, that means you can go get, Rory and Colin, or Rory and Ludwig, or Rory and, I don't know, Fleetwood, whoever you're feeling. So I think Daniel Berger is probably my main choice when it comes to the 6K range. If you want to take a flyer and you feel like playing a dangerous game, Aaron Rai could be interesting. Again, the putter. What's up?
Course is too long.
Is it too long for him? See, but he's good with the driver and he's good with the irons. He just sucks with the putter. Yeah. Again, there's an inherent risk. I would much prefer Daniel Berger. But I think Aaron Rai at 6,700 is not the worst option in this range, is all I will say. He's got the irons, he's got the driver. I think his putter is his weakness. Distance might hurt him, but we'll see. I would don't go Homa. Don't go basically any of these other guys because they're not worth. Cool. Rose, maybe 6,400.
No, I don't think this plays as well as Pebble Beach does for him.
I don't hate him. I think he's an interesting option. 6,400. I probably again not the first choice in the range. Maybe like the third or fourth option. So, all right. With that, let's get into DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. What is your lineup looking like this week, Jack?
DraftKings, Rory McIlroy, 10,900. You're welcome for your winner's pick. Robert McIntyre, 8,100. Sepp Straka, 8,000. Min Woo Lee, 7,800. I have Adam Scott, 7,500. And Wyndham Clark, 7,300.
Wait, so you took Rory and then basically like four guys all within $1,000 of one another, right around 8,000, or five guys in around 8,000? That's funny. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, for my DraftKings lineup, I went out of left field on this one. I can already feel it. I started with Rory, 10,900. Taylor Pendrith at 9,000. Rasmus Højgaard at 8,300. Min Woo Lee, 7,800. Sam Stevens, 7,600. And then Justin Rose at 6,400. So, FanDuel, what's your FanDuel lineup looking like?
Yeah, it's relatively close. I have Rory McIlroy, 12,500. Sepp Straka, 10,100. Robbie Mack at 9,900. Min Woo Lee, 9,400. I did go JT Poston at 9,100 and Wyndham Clark at 8,900. Posty is a random one. I think he could pop off. He could.
He's gonna do. It's either this or this. You're either getting the. So we'll see. All right, for my FanDuel lineup, I've got Rory McIlroy, 12,500. I've got Justin Thomas, 11,400. I've got Min Woo Lee at 9,400. I've got Sam Stevens at 9,200. I've got Daniel Berger at 8,800. And then I'm taking the flyer on Aaron Rai at 8,500. That, again, he's just making a cut, and he's finishing somewhere in the realm of like T40. So, sweet. All right, on to bets. How many bets you got this week?
What? You should go first, my man. You're crushing it.
Yeah, I like the fact that I was doing well and going second. So I was going to keep going second until you told me to stop. So, all right, we'll start with bets. I have 5 this week. I feel pretty good about them, which scares me because usually when I feel good about bets, that's a bad sign. But for my 5, I have Shane Lowry over Will Zalatoris at -110. I have Sepp Straka over Sam Burns at -110. I have Rory McIlroy to finish top 10 at -110. I have Daniel Berger to finish top 30 at -105. And then I have Rory top 20 in round 1 at -125. 5 bets, keeping it simple, and seeing what happens from there.
I have a little more than that, but it's also the same guys that I really liked before. Yeah. First and foremost, the bet that I love the most is Rory over Scotty at +145. I just genuinely think that that was some of the most beautiful 72 holes I've ever seen in my entire life. And Scotty over the last couple weeks here, or last 2 weeks rather, has really made some course management errors. And I think at a course like this, it's just going to expose that even more. Every other bet I have is -120. So I don't know how it all happened to be that way. But I have Min Woo Lee at 29th or better is -120. His top 30 odds were -160 or 29th or better is -120. One spot for 4. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Adam Scott, top 30 is -120. I think his long irons are some of the best in the world that are like underrated. So I think he can crush it. I am taking Wyndham Clark, top 30 at -120. Scary, but I'm still taking it. I have Bobby Mack, 30th or better at -120. Sepp Straka, 30th or better at -120 as well. And if you're wondering what the difference is between like top 30 and 30th and better, there really is none. But depending on what book you use, you'll see top finishes, and then some will do finishing position. So, for example, my next bet is Scotty 5th or worse. So he just like in order for Scotty or the books to win, he has to finish 1 through 4. Scary, and I like that. And then I have Rory McIlroy 11th or better because I think he's going to beat Scotty. And even if he doesn't, I still think he can finish top 11, especially in this field. And then I do have a maybe on Victor Hovland 28th or worse. I don't know about that. Victor Hovland is just not the same golfer that he has been. But this is just one of those weeks where he could randomly pop off. So I'm still 50-50 on that.
Are we including it towards your total or not?
I'll decide by Thursday morning.
Okay. All right. If I see it in the dock Thursday morning, I'm going to save it. If it's out of there by Thursday morning, I'm going to save it that way. So we'll game plan it that way.
Yeah, it'll be. I'll include that in like the top comment on whatever social I post, so you guys see it.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I already noticed you had a wild card for Tiger top 30, and it looks like that is just not a thing anymore because he's not in the field.
I spent $1 on him winning.
Okay. All right. Well, that's some confidence right there. All right. So I guess no wild card then, right? Because you were all planned out for Tiger to be your wild card. So
yeah, I think just wild on this event, to be honest. I'm bailing.
That's fine. For my wild card, I didn't love a ton of options. I'm gonna take Andrew Novak top 20 at plus 210. Not my favorite wild card I've picked so far this year, but again, this field, the odds in some of these wild cards, once you hit above like plus 120, just was absolutely awful. So I think he's one that could sneak in and finish top 20 just based on the fact that he hits pretty straight drive and he played well here at the Farmers. So.
There you go.
All right, on to winners. What's winners looking like this week?
Outside of Rory McIlroy, who I think right now is like 7-1, which is really, really good. I have Sepp Straka, who, again, I think right now is player of the year, 11 weeks in, 12 weeks in. I have Min Woo Lee. I think he really can contend and finish on the leaderboard this week. And then as a really big flyer of Adam Scott, who I think was like alongside Bobby Mack at like 90-1. So I think you can really put $10 on it. It's $900 if he cashes. So even though I don't really like betting winners, I put a very small percentage because just guys I like, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, not to cut you off, Rory, it's 7-1. Is actually really criminal.
Yeah, especially in a limited field with like 70 golfers. So we'll see. My winners, I've got Taylor Pendrith, I've got Shane Lowry, and I've got Sam Stevens. Am I confident in Sam Stevens winning? Not necessarily, but do I think he could finish T10? Sure. And if you get somebody like that to finish T10, especially in a one and done, you're pretty happy about it because you didn't burn a Scotty or a Rory, and Sam Stevens finished nice and high for you. So that is it for the Genesis at Torrey Pines. That's gonna be that's so weird and strange. I'm gonna have to figure out how to title this because it's gonna be like the Deja Vu Genesis Open at Torrey Pines or something like that. I'm gonna figure all that out. And then next week too, we go to Mexico, which I know is your favorite event of the entire year.
Oh, great! Then we go to frickin' Cognizant. Oh,
yes.
The name in PGA Tour history.
You like the fact that in our notes I still call it the Honda.
I want to see the preview of it, so it's Cognizant for me.
Oh, all right, yeah, no, it's either the Honda and then I put in parentheses Cognizant, or it's the Cognizant and then a dash and then Honda, just so that way we can make sure.
I don't know what Cognizant is. I probably should know, but I hope they get boycotted.
Oh man! All right, let's call it there before Jack gets either of us in any trouble for whatever reason.
Turn Dog Golf Podcast does not officially support a boycott of whatever Cognizant is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got to add the disclaimer across the bottom. But with that is the Genesis. Will Hideki go back to back? We do not know. But let's go out there. Let's have some fun, and we will see you next week for the unfortunately the Mexico Open. So we'll see you there. Deuces.